We shouldn't talk about this may contain graphic descriptions and/or explicit content that may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Hi, everybody. I'm Key,
And I'm V.
and this is We Shouldn't Talk About This.
Good day to you, Key.
Good day to you, V. Happy 21st episode. We're
Hmm.
legal.
We are
Yay.
finally legal for our 21st endeavor. I was
We
thinking we
should
should do
talk about
something proper.
bootleggers. Oh, we should have talked about bootleggers because of liquor. Oh, we missed it.
Ah, we
Oh, we
did.
missed. Oh, well,
Well,
hindsight is 2020.
2020.
But what are we talking about today?
We are talking about art forgery.
Classy.
Yeah, it's like just imagine you painstakingly made something incredible, and then hundreds of years later, some bozo makes a copy of it and tells people it's the real thing and sells it for a huge profit. Just imagine.
Damn that bozo, first of all. And
Hmm.
hopefully I could come back from the dead and haunt them for using my talent and skills to dupe someone out of money so many years later.
There's an episode of Supernatural where a painting was killing someone. It was cool.
Wow. That sounds kind of like that movie Oculus. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Yeah, but that was like a mirror
yeah.
that was
When
making people crazy and killing people.
when that guy pulled the staple out of his nail or pulled his nail off with a staple mover, that's it just made my it took my breath away pretty much because it's such a disgusting, painful thing to look at.
No, I like the thing I remember most from that movie like was the light bulbs were on the counter and the mirror was like making them look like apples and the girl picked one up and bit into it.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And I was
Mm.
like, okay, y'all rigged all this stuff up to break the mirror. Why not just go ahead and use it? Just as soon as it's rigged, set it off.
And
But anyway, I don't remember the full plot of why it took them so long to try to break it. So
yeah,
let's
yeah.
move on.
Let's move on. All right.
So who's going first this week?
I think I should
Okay. I think we should start flipping a coin.
flip a coin.
Yeah. Like, we should flip a coin before we start to decide who goes first. Heads I win, tails you lose.
Okay, that sounds fair.
Cool, cool. We'll do that next time.
Okay. All right. So, gather around, children. It's time for telecrime.
All right.
So we're going to go to 1989, South Torton, United Kingdom. And we're going to go to the Greenhalls estate, their household little thing. So, Sean Greenhall's family was involved in the Garden Shed Gang. They established an elaborate
Hang
cottage.
on. The Garden Shed Gang.
Hey, come on.
That sounds like the the most non-aggressive gang in the world. Like if they threaten to fix your garden for you. You better straighten up or we're gonna plant these peas over here. The worst. Okay.
You dare mock the Garden Shed Gang? Are you serious, Key? Do you know how fast they'll take us down?
I'm just saying they could have picked a better name than the Garden Shed Gang. I'm just saying. Something a little more mean and aggressive, something to really get their point across to make it seem like threatening. Like this the Garden Shed Gang doesn't sound threatening at all.
You can have chainsaws in the garden shed. That's pretty threatening.
Okay, but you also have to crank a garden shed and makes or a chainsaw and it makes a lot of noise. By the time you do all that, the person's ran away.
That's true. That's true. So, as I was saying, they established an elaborate cottage industry at his parents' house in the Crescent, Bromley Cross, South Turton, which is about 3.5 miles or 6 kilometers north of Bolton town center. His parents, George Sr. and Olive, approached clients while his older brother, George Jr., managed the money. Sean Greenhall left school at 16 years old with no qualifications. A self taught artist influenced by his job as an antique dealer, he worked up his forgeries from sketches, photographs, art books, and catalogs. He attempted a wide range of crafts, from painting in pastels and watercolors to sketches and sculptures, both modern and ancient, busts and statues, bas relief, and metalwork. He invested in a wide range of different materials: silver, stone, marble, rare stone, replica metal, and glass. He also did meticulous research to authenticate his items with histories and provenance, such as faking letters from the supposed artist in order to demonstrate his ownership. Completed items were then uh, stored around the house and the garden shed. The garden shed served as a workshop as well. Other members of the family were invoked to help establish the legitimacy of various items. These included his great grandfather, who had quote unquote owned an art gallery and had a strong affinity and foresight to buy well at auctions, and an ancestor who had apparently worked for the mayor of Bolton as a cleaner and was given a Thomas Moran painting. Now, if you're a custodian person, you're working really hard, but do you think they'll reward you with a super expensive painting for your services?
No.
Yeah, that's very far fetched indeed, but it was just one of the shams they kept up with just to make it seem legit. But there's much more to them getting their quote unquote ancestors involved too. So after the process of for, forging and selling all of the very expensive pieces, soon an investigation was led by the Scotland Yard. And so a detective came out to the house and he was amazed by what he saw. He quoted this: "There were blocks of stone, a furnace for melting silver on top of the fridge, half finished and rejected sculptures, a watercolor under the bed, a check for £20,000 dated 1993, and a bust of an American president in the loft. I'd never seen anything like it."
Yeah, that does seem like a random menagerie of things, but I guess it's all art, so it kind of makes sense. But I can understand, like, I'd be confused too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like he was jumping around from project to project.
Right.
A next door neighbor recalled, "I was finding bits of pottery and coins around the edges of the garden over 20 years back. Things like bits of medals with old kings on it." While this sounds as though materials were openly displayed, it was perhaps not quite that obvious. Angela Thomas, a curator from the Bolton Museum, actually visited the family at home prior to the purchase of the Amarna princess and reported nothing untoward. Sean's mummy may have been a peripheral figure, but Sean's daddy was way more involved. He was the front man who met face to face with potential buyers. He looks honest, he's elderly, and he shows up in a wheelchair. On one occasion, trying to interest the Bolton Museum and the Amarna princess, an ancient Egyptian statuette about the size of a gnome, George Sr. told them that he was thinking about using it as a garden ornament. The parents were perhaps most important because they helped establish a logical explanation for why the Greenhalls had possession of such items in the first place, namely as family heirlooms. It allowed them to offload items when they were discovered as fakes, such as the Enred reliquary and in a L.S. Laurie painting, The Meeting House. Yet, for all of his daring, he once boasted that he could knock up a Thomas Moran watercolor in about half an hour and claimed to have completed the Amarna Princess in 3 weeks. Sean Greenhall needed the help from his parents. At, at the trial, it was said by a lawyer, Brian McKenna, that his mother made the phone calls because he was shy and did not like to use the telephone.
Oh, come on now. Come on now.
I mean, Sean's a shy boy, you know?
You can't be perpetrating fraud and be like, no, I can't call him
Puts a blanket over his face.
shy. Right.
So I have a I have a list of 44 forgeries that were that were found out from them. 44. That is an insane number.
Yeah.
But let me just tell you real quick of how they were caught.
And that's just what was found out, right? Like, who knows if there's others floating around?
Right, yeah, yeah, because like a lot of things were privately sold too. So this is how they were caught. In light of the fact that they had so successfully duped the experts, the Greenhalghs tried again using the same Silverton Park Providence. They produced what were purportedly three Assyrian reliefs of soldiers and horses from the palace of Sennacherib in 600 BC. The British Museum examined them in November 2005, concluded that they were genuine, and expressed an interest in buying one of them, which seemed to match a drawing by H. Lyard in its collection. However, when two of the reliefs were submitted to Bonn's auction house, its antiquities consultant Richard Falklander spotted an obvious fake.
Well, I'm
Bonn's,
not surprised. He was whipping them out in 30 minutes.
yeah, for real. Bohens consulted with the British Museum about various suspicious aspects, and the museum then spotted several unlikely anomalies. The horses' reins were not consistent or atypical with respect to other Assyrian reliefs. The culling uniform ins- inscription contained a spelling mistake, an,
Mm.
ab- an, an absent diacritical mark, which was considered extremely unlikely in a piece destined for the eyes of the king. These concerns became full-blown suspicion when George seemed too willing to part with the items at a low price. The museum contacted the Arts and Antiquities Unit of the Scotland Yard, and 18 months later, the family was arrested.
Dang. A spelling mistake, though? Come on. Come
Right,
on.
but it is like it is in a different language. But if you're gonna, if you're gonna try to cheat something, you gotta cheat it to the T.
Right. Know what your thing, like, you have to be so immersed in it. You can't just say, okay, I'm gonna pick a language and write a word and hope it's right. No, you take it to people who speak that language and be like, how do you spell this? Then you double check them, ask somebody else, like, hey, how do you spell this? That's what I did
Because
when I got my tattoo. My friend is Korean, my best friend. She wrote my name. And okay, after I got the tattoo, I asked like two people, her mama and the Korean shop owner of the store I used to go to, like, what did it really say? Which in retrospect, I should have did that first. But it was in the heat of the
but
moment and it says my name, so I'm cool.
yeah, yeah, she's trustworthy.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I wouldn't just willy nilly try to pick Korean symbols out and think I know what it really says.
Yeah, exactly. So, had the Greenhalghs managed to sell all 120 artworks, they had offered it as estimated they have earned as much as 10 million pounds.
Not too shabby.
Not at all. This would have made the average value of each piece more than 83,000 pounds, although money received varied between 100 pounds and 440,000 pounds, which they sold the American Princess at.
Dang.
The Greenhalghs did not manage to offload most of their works, many of which they did sell purportedly were undersold, garnering only minimum amounts. Others, such as the Lowry painting The Meeting House, only gained in value from repeated resales, which, wouldn't benefit the Greenhalls. I think that's pretty crazy too, because like whoever bought the meeting house bought it at one price, and then they sold it for an even higher price after that. It's so crazy.
Right. Like, but it's like if they were so willing to give it cheap because they knew it was a fake, then yeah, I can see how the other person was like, "Ooh, I can get a profit off of this because I didn't pay but 100,000 pounds for it. Let me sell it for 200,000 pounds."
Yeah, yeah. As time went on, more ambitious, expensive pieces of work were produced, some of which did not sell. However, these were subject to more scrutiny, and indeed, it was one of these Assyrian reliefs which led to the exposure and arrest, which suggests that the longevity of their scheme was concentrated on passing off lower level items. Yeah, because I mean, like, cause like it's just like with fake money. If you have a fake $100 bill, you're gonna get fined out more if you have a fake $1 bill. No one checks $1 bills, but they're gonna always check a $100 bill.
Right. You were so right. I remember a few years ago, well, more than a few years ago. It's been like a while. I was working at Big Lots, and we had to check like tens and fives because someone around the Greenville area was like floating fake tens and fives, and I was like, okay, but that's smart because who else checks it? Like, it wasn't until we got one at the store that we started checking.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, that's smart. Like, yeah, don't come in here with 20s and 50s and hundreds. Come in here with a whole bunch of ones and fives and just say you work at a strip club.
In addition, the bank records of the Green Halls only went back 6 years. So in the final analysis, the exact amount of money involved over the 17-year scam has not been determined. What is known is that two Halflix accounts, one containing 55,173 pounds and the other 303,646 pounds, were frozen pending a confiscation hearing in January 2008. And Sean Greenhall was convicted for conspiracy to conceal and transfer 410,392 pounds. How long do you think he was sentenced to prison?
Since it's an art crime and it's not very violent, I'm going to say 3 years.
Okay, that's a little generous. He got 4 years and 8 months.
Wow. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, that's not too major, huge.
No, no.
The Amarna Princess, which was like the most ambitious project, it's so extraordinary because like this, of course, would have been an Egyptian relic.
Mm-hmm.
But what Sean did is that he went to B&Q, which is a United Kingdom do-it-yourself and home improvement store, and he just bought random materials for it. Like he bought random materials and then coated it with a mixture of tea and clay to make it look old. Like
Wow.
like this guy was really crafty and really smart.
I think to be an art forger, you have to be.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if you want to make that bank.
Yeah.
So that was sold in 2003, and it was sold for 439,767 pounds, and it remained on display until February 2006. And then it got redisplayed in September 2018 as part of the Bolton Museum's Bolton Egypt Gallery as an example of fake Egyptian artifacts in the obsessions section. They got it back on him. Like it's going to be forever in their museum, but as an obsessive knockoff.
I mean, I guess that's one way to still recoup money. Because what does destroying it do?
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't do anything. But yeah, that was Sean Green Hall and the Garden Shed Gang. I'm sorry I didn't tell you any more details about the Garden Shed Gang, but for them being such a notorious outfit, it was kind of hard to find info on them.
Yeah. If someone had threatened me with planting a garden, I wouldn't be too, you know, liable to speak up about it. I'd be shamed and keep my mouth shut.
You'll plant your garden, but what they plant you will grow back and die and grow back and die continuously in a cycle.
Yeah, yeah, like you'll never produce any really good crops from it. It's just gonna be like the worst garden in the world.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, so you know, but that was good though. Like I am surprised that that was, like they didn't have records and stuff like that of what. But I guess it's hard to keep track of once you sell something if you don't keep track of who you sold it to. Then I guess it is kind of hard to like track it down per se.
Yeah, right, right. I can see that being hard.
Yeah, but that's interesting though. Like I liked this topic because my story was interesting too.
I'm certainly ready for it.
Well, all right. Let's see. Now, John Mayett, or Mayotte, because they're British, so I might be pronouncing that wrong, and John Drew perpetrated what has been described as the biggest art fraud of the 20th century. John Mayett was born in 1945. The son of a farmer, Mayett attended art school and discovered a talent for mimicking other artist styles and painted for amusement and for friends. Now, he worked as a songwriter for a time and claims authorship of the song Silly Games, a UK number 2 hit for Janet Kay in 1979. Although this is attributed by Kay to producer Dennis Bovell and credited to Diana Bovell. But in multiple sources, I saw him get credited for it, so I don't know if he was like a ghostwriter, but seems like he may have really had something to do with it. Now, around 1986, Myatt discovered that he could paint like the masters, and for the next 9 years, he led a secret and stunningly successful professional life as a painter. He faked painting styles with such virtuosity that his paintings passed for the real thing. Now, John Drew was born John Crockett in 1948 and grew up in a lower middle class home in Sussex, southeast England. Even as a child, he made up stories about himself, bragging to friends that he was a direct descendant of the Earl of York and the son of the founder of the British Home Stores. Oh, British Homes.
British homes.
We have a little connection. Despite a reported IQ of 165, he was an average student. Daniel Stokes, a friend from those days whose life was to intersect with Drew some 35 years later, remembers Drew as an abnormally organized child who kept an enormous library of books and clipping files, as though he were accumulating written information for some later purpose. His room, Stokes recalls, seemed like a laboratory, or, as the English say, a laboratory.
Laboratory.
At 17, Crockett dropped out of high school and changed his name to Drew. For the next 15 years, he slipped out of official sight. He worked briefly in a low administrative post at the Atomic Energy Authority, but after that, the British government has no record of him paying taxes, being met excuse me. After that, the British government has no record of him paying taxes, being arrested, or seeking medical treatment. His official employment record is blank. But in 1980, Drew met wealthy Israeli expatriate Batsheva Goldsmud and soon moved into her house, having charmed her with claims that he was an advisor to the Atomic Energy Authority, a British Aerospace Board member, and worked for the Ministry of Defense. So he was laying it on pretty thick there.
Oh, absolutely. Jeez.
Mhm. Now, Drew and Myatt met in 1985. When Myatt's wife left him in 1985, he gave up teaching to spend more time with his children and attempted to make a living by painting original works in the style of well known artists. He placed an advertisement in Private Eye magazine which read Genuine Fakes, 19th and 20th century paintings from 150 pounds. He was initially honest about the nature of his paintings, but John Drew, a regular customer, had presented himself as a nuclear physicist who wanted art copies for his own home and hinted at links to British intelligence.
A nuclear physicist? Really?
It,
That's
like
what we're
it
going
just
with?
gets more and more grandiose every time he tells his story.
This dude.
Drew, however, was able to resell some of the paintings as genuine works by using mud and vacuum cleaner dust to age them. When he later told Mayotte that Christie's had accepted his Albert Gleizes painting as genuine and paid £25,000, Mayotte became a willing accomplice to Drew's fraud. And he began to paint more pictures in the styles of masters like Roger Bissir, Marc Chagall, Le Corbusier, Jean Dubuffet, Alberto Giacometti, Matisse, Ben Nicholson, and Nicholas de Stael and Graham Sutherland. Now, Drew did not try to sell paintings in a closed setting like, to family and friends and whatnot. He wanted money. So he created a background for him. He forged certificates of authenticity and even invoices of previous sales to establish false provenance and paper trails for the paintings. He wrote to relatives of the artists to fool them into authenticating the forgeries. He tricked a small Catholic religious order in a village to sign a contract which would verify some of the paintings. Now, he also forged documents about previous owners so that the paintings did not just suddenly seem to appear from nowhere. So he really thought this out. He really thought,
Yeah. He even went for the religious ones.
right, hoodwinking the Catholics. So for this, he used records of dead people, some of them his old acquaintances. He convinced some of his living friends to sign documents as though they were previous owners of the paintings. Most of them were broke or otherwise in trouble and accepted the money that he offered them to do it. To an old childhood friend, Daniel Stokes, he concocted a story about a drinking wife and needy children and convinced him to pretend to be the owner of a fake Ben Nicholson painting. Clive Bellman, another acquaintance, was told that the paintings were sold to provide money for purchases of archival materials from the Soviet Union about the Holocaust.
This dude is an expert liar.
He really is. Now, when he couldn't find anyone to bribe, he just invented non existent people. So he just didn't care. He was just, oh, you don't want to sign it, you don't want to be okay. So Sam Jam owned this painting for 6 years, and it was passed down from his grandfather, Ma'am Jam. Like he just didn't care.
Sam Jam sounds pretty legit to me.
Yeah, it does. I'd believe it. Now, in 1989, Drew gained access to the letter archives of the Institute of Contemporary Arts in London by claiming he was an interested collector. He also donated two paintings, Mayotte's forgeries, of course, for a fundraising auction. He later used the Institute stationery in his fake documents. The Tate Gallery received a donation of two Roger Bissere paintings, But Besser's son did not accept them. Good on him. He was probably like, I think I know my dad's paintings, and I don't think these are it.
Yeah, like like he was really trying to see how far he could go for that one.
Yeah, like he's probably like, I don't remember those two. Let's not take them. So Drew withdrew the paintings, but he made a donation of £20,000, which is about 32,000 US dollars, to the gallery. So the gallery opened its archives to him. And I guess that made him seem more genuine, like, oh, he does, okay, well, just give them back, but I'm gonna make a donation instead.
Yeah, yeah. You on the good side like that.
Right. So instead of the paintings being donated to make money, he donated actual money to ingratiate himself to them. He was smart. I'm gonna give him that. He was smart. Let's see. Now, to be accepted by the Victoria and Albert Museum, he needed a false reference. He provided one himself. Well, I guess he needed a reference, and so he provided a false one.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, well, he was connected to British intelligence and an aerospace engineer and all these other things that he's been telling people. An atomic energy advisor. He worked for the Ministry of Defense. I mean, hey, why not just go ahead and give yourself a reference?
Yeah, why not?
Now, Drew used that opportunity to introduce false records into the archives. See, he is like really playing the long game here. So he made all these false records, ingratiated himself with all these places, and then put his false records in the archives. Oh, he was like the ultimate con man.
Yeah, for real. This is crazy.
He replaced old pages and inserted numerous new ones into old art catalogs to include Mayat's forgeries. The institutions have said that it will take years to purge the archives of all the false information. Through a middleman, Drew also created a company called Art Research Associates and again used himself as a reference. Now, in 1995, Drew left Guzman to marry Helen Sussman, a doctor. Now, this is where he made the mistake. Maybe this was not the most amicable divorce because Guzman studied papers that Drew had left behind and found a number of incriminating letters. So, you know what she did?
What?
She decided to tell the police and the Tate Gallery.
Nope. Nope. Did the wrong one. Messed with the
Right.
wrong
He,
one.
he messed with the wrong one there. Or if you're going to be a ass to somebody, take all your paperwork with you. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, honestly.
Don't leave a paper trail where they could find it and turn you into the police. So, in September 1995, Mayotte was arrested by Scotland Yard detectives. He quickly confessed, stating that he had created the paintings using emulsion paint developed in the mid 60s and KY jelly, a mixture that dried quickly but was hardly reminiscent of the original pigments. But it was good enough to pass, though. So, he estimated that he earned between 165,000 to 275,000 pounds and offered to return the 30,000 pounds he still had and help convict Drew. He had come to dislike the deception and to dislike Drew. According to Mayotte, he painted about 200 forgeries in a regular schedule, about one every 6 weeks, and delivered them to Drew in London. 7 months later, on April 6, 1996, after recording conversations between the partners, detectives raided Drew's home in the Tony London suburb of Reigate, where they found hundreds of documents from the Victoria and Albert Museum, the Tate Gallery, and the Institute of Contemporary Art. Now, sitting on Drew's kitchen table were two catalogs missing from the Victoria and Albert Museum National Art Library, still in the museum bag that Drew had used to smuggle them out. There were rubber stamps bearing the authenticating seals of the Tate and of an order of Masonic priest. Receipts for sale of the paintings across continents going back decades. Certificates of authenticity from the estates of Dubuffet and Giacometti. Also, the more mundane instruments of document forgery: scissors, razors, correction fluid, glue, tape, that of the such. Now, as soon as police and art experts discovered forging masterpieces, as Mayotte had done, was the least of it. Drew's real genius lay in his ability to authenticate Mayotte's works through bogus provenances, the history of a work of art, from its creation through its purchasings and exhibits to its current ownership, a crucial element in the sale of any picture. It would turn out that over the previous 10 years, Drew had systematically infiltrated some of the most security conscious art archives in the world, altering the provenances of genuine paintings to establish a lineage, making way for Mayotte's mostly unexceptional forgeries, and then seeding the collections with false records that provided the pictures with instant heritage. The scale of corruption is unprecedented.
Dude was hard at work. It's crazy.
He was, and he was really playing the long con. Like, he knew exactly what to do. It's crazy.
I've been scared the whole time.
Couldn't even drink a cup of coffee. They'd be like, V, you be like, huh?
Yeah,
I'm not doing nothing. I'm not forging.
exactly. So on edge with all the lies. How can I keep up?
Right. Like, that's another thing. How did he keep track of all of this? It's mind blowing. Now, the method is also unprecedented. Archivists may never know how much of their libraries have been compromised. Of the approximate 200 masterworks Mayotte painted and Drew sold, police have only located 73.
Wow. To this
Now,
day.
to this day,
Wow.
now Drew did more than slip phony pictures into a market hungry for important contemporary art. He altered art history. The police called the con the biggest contemporary art fraud of the 20th century has seen. The British prosecution office declared Drew a menace to Britain's cultural patri- patrimony. I'm sorry, they called him a menace.
Oh, he's a menace.
Right, like they are just so serious. Like, he is a menace. Drew had sold the forgeries to auction houses of Christie's, Phillips, and Sotheby's, and to dealers in London, Paris, and New York. Maya had no idea how many millions had changed hands on account of his paintings. However, the total sum of profits made through Mayatte's forgeries exceeds £25 million.
Wow. Jeez.
Now, he didn't even get a million of that. He said it was somewhere between 165 and 275,000 pounds that he actually got, and then turned in the last 30,000.
Was it even worth it at that point?
Maybe so, because he was able to do what he loved and keep his children, you know, not keep his children, but he had quit so he could spend more time with his children. He quit his real job.
I
So
see, I
maybe
see.
so. I guess that gave him, like, the time and the money to do what he needed to do. Now, during the interrogation, Drew continuously protested his innocence against all evidence. That's right. You stick to the lie. Like Shaggy said, it wasn't me.
That's right.
What if she caught you on camera? It wasn't me. Like you never admit it. He was released on bail and disappeared. Now, they should have known better. But again, I mean, it's nonviolent. Yes, it's a lot of money, but I feel like they just felt like, he's not violent. He's not out here trying to kill people. So, but 2 months later, the police found him by following his mother. Oh,
Aw, mommy.
this time Drew had concocted a conspiracy theory of a frame up. He claimed that he was an arms dealer and a fall guy for a conspiracy including British law enforcement and governments of 7 countries, and that there had been a total of 4,000 forgeries that had been used to finance arms deals between the UK arms industry and Iran, Iraq, and Sierra Leone. He also claimed that he was a British intelligence agent and that Mayat was a neo Nazi operative, and that Robert Harris, a name mentioned in many of the forged certificates, was a South African arms dealer. He could not
Whoa.
provide any proof of these stories.
Wow. Man, a laundry list of lies right there.
Right. Now, if he had intended to scare the police to drop the case, he failed. The prosecution declared his story pure fantasy and charged him. The trial against Drew and Mayat began in September 1998. Drew fired his lawyer because he refused to use Drew's story as a defense, and Drew decided to defend himself. Again, he failed. Mayat called him a liar to his face, and the jury declared him guilty in 6 hours.
Oh my gosh.
I wonder why it took him so long, like 6 hours. I would have been like, okay. As soon as we got in there, okay, he's guilty. I don't
Yeah.
even like, really, sir, really. Now, on February 13th, 1999, Drew was sentenced to 6 years for conspiracy to defraud, 2 counts of forgery, one of theft, and one of using a false instrument with intent. He served 2 years in prison. Then, in March 2012, at Norwich Crown Court, Drew was convicted of defrauding a 71-year-old retired musician teacher or music teacher of her life savings of £700,000 and leaving her penniless.
Dang, he needs to chill out with that.
Like, what a dick move. What a dick move. Really? A 71-year-old retired art teacher or
Mm-mm,
music teacher?
that's not
He's
right.
disgusting. Now, he was jailed for 8 years by a judge who told him, quote, "In my view, you are about the most dishonest and devious person I have ever dealt with." That's right, Judge. You stick it to him. Now, on February 13th of 1999, John Mayat was also sentenced to 1 year in prison for conspiracy to defraud. He was released the following June after serving 4 months of his sentence. After his release, Mayat continued to paint commission portraits and clear copies and has held exhibitions of his work. His paintings are now marked indelibly as fakes and can be bought from castle galleries in the UK. It's reported they have sold for up to £45,000.
Where the proceeds going to?
I would think to him because he served his time and he is marking them as fakes. He is selling them as fakes like he did it in the beginning when he first started this.
Okay, okay.
In 2007, it was reported that a film was to be made about Mayat's case, written by Dick Clement and Ian Lafreniere. and with the working title Genius Fakes. I don't think anything ever came of that though. He, being Mayat, now works alongside law enforcement in helping to expose fraudsters. Mayat also has a television show on Sky Arts called Frame or Fame in the Frame. He has a private sitting with one celebrity each episode and paints a portrait of them in the style of a famous artist. Mayat has said of his forgeries, when I paint in the style of one of the greats, Monet, Picasso, Van Gogh, I'm not simply creating a copy or a pale imitation of the original. Just as an actor immerses himself into a character, I climb into the minds and lives of each artist. I adopt their techniques and search for inspiration behind each great artist's view of the world. Then and only then do I start to paint a quote legitimate fake.
That is so wholesome. But did he cut off his ear?
Right. Like, did you really, sir? Because
That's,
we all know the story.
I'm asking the hard hitting questions right now.
You really are. You should go into investigative journalism.
Huh, how about
Because
that?
if he has two ears, then that was a complete lie. You did not get into their life and immerse yourself because you still have two ears, sir. And it was like Van Gogh, wasn't it? Who cut off one of his ears?
Right.
Yeah.
Vincent Van
Like,
Gogh.
have you ever been that in love to cut off one of your ears for someone?
I think not.
I think not too.
You are still a menace to this day.
No, he's not the menace. Drew was the menace.
Oh, my bad.
He was the one that cooperated and was like, "Yep, it's all fake. Here's what I did." he, he he sang like a canary as soon as he got caught. So that was my case, and
Well,
they like really, you know, he kept a lot better records than the Garden House gang.
yeah,
So they were able to like really, and Mayat was really honest. He told him like I painted 200 forgeries and gave them to him.
right, right. Now, I am pretty happy to say that these cases were not downers. These cases were quite amusing
They
and not like,
were
it doesn't make you sad.
right. I mean, nobody got any serious time for what they did.
Hmm.
Like, Drew got 8 years for being a dick and
Yeah,
stealing a elderly lady's money,
just insane.
which he should have gotten that much time. But like all the actual forgeries, see, I mean, they didn't even really get that much time.
No, so like the money that they received from all their fake work was, that's it. They just got a little bit of paper and that's all.
And some probably good stories.
Yeah, yeah. Because I actually didn't say, but my gentleman Sean Greenhall, he still paints and makes arts and crafts too, like to this day.
Mm. Well, if you have the talent, don't let it go to waste.
Yeah. Don't let getting locked up take you away from
Stop.
what you love
Right.
doing.
Right. Might as well use it.
Can't stop that shine.
Oh no. Well, like you said, our stories today were like very lighthearted. Like, okay, it was forgeries and people getting swindled out of money. But, you know, other than that, they were very light. So I'm gonna bring us down right
Oh geez.
now. Yeah. In light of what's going on in the US with the videoed murder of George Floyd and now like all these major cities bursting out into riots and burning down everything. I just want to say, anyone listening, please be careful and stay safe. And hashtag Black Lives Matter. And I hope that they convict all four of those police officers for murder because I unfortunately watched the video before it like really got viral and I didn't know what it was. So I've like definitely been traumatized by it. I don't ever want to see anything that horrible again. Like talking about it is one thing, but actually sitting there watching someone lose their life in front of your eyes is traumatizing. And I would not wish that on my worst enemy. And I just hope like America will calm itself down, stop burning things to the ground, and hopefully those cops get convicted because it was horrendous what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. I have not seen the video. Don't want to watch it. I didn't watch the video where the young man was shot in the back when he was running either. For someone who is like spent his whole life playing video games, like violent and non-violent video games, I can differentiate pixels from platelets. You know, like real people,
Right.
they're like real people don't need to have their lives taken away from them. They need to live out their life and die natural causes. I'm not a fan of violence, and it always needs to stop. And the right procedures need to be done to put the people at fault, like out of civilization.
It's been a rough few days. However, hopefully this will come to an end and, you know, again, don't watch any of these. Like, I don't watch these videos. I don't repost them. Like, people have sent me videos to my inbox and was like, repost this and let's make it go viral. And I didn't even like play the video. I could see it was something I didn't want to watch, and I don't want to traumatize anybody else. So, with that
Yeah.
being said, let's bring it back up.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to bring it down, everybody, but this is like extremely serious what's going on, and we'd be remiss to not at least mention it and, you know, give it the attention that it needs to get. Now, people who are not in the US that listen, Google George Floyd and you'll see, don't watch any videos, but you'll see what we're talking about and how devastating it is, like the climate here in the US is currently. But on a happier note, I want to shout out, I may have shouted her out before, but if I have, she's getting another shout out. And if not, shout out to Melissa. She works with me and she is always hyping us up, telling me that she listens and that is great and that she's entertained. So I appreciate her. We, talk about other true crime stuff when we have like spare moments here and there to chat with each other. So thanks for being a listener, Melissa, and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Melissa. We do appreciate you.
So, what about you?
Well, I would like to shout out my friends. It's just various various conglomerate of nice people who do support and listen to our show and are always
Hey,
happy to
friends.
hear me mispronounce and misspeak. So
Well, shout out to
my
those
pain is their
those
pleasure.
guys. And also, huge shout out to V for getting the YouTube up and running. I don't think we announced that on the last episode, but for those of you who are into the podcast and know somebody else who may like it, but maybe you're not as tech savvy as to how to get the podcast going on a podcast player, now you can just direct them to YouTube. We Shouldn't Talk About This Podcast is the name. And it
Every
just plays
episode
our
is on
episode
there.
every episode. So subscribe, have your friends subscribe, give us a 5-star rating on Apple iTunes if you have an iPhone or iPod or iPad. Give us some ratings. Also
And check out the
on,
new format of Good Pods.
yes, that's exactly what I was about to say. Good Pods. You can also check us out on there and give us ratings.
Yeah, and also chat with me, V, because I am on there actively and speaking about some of the cases on our show and talking to other podcast hosts as well.
Awesome. Seeing as how I'm team Android, I cannot get on there. However, I do mostly run the Twitter WStat_pod, the Instagram WStat_pod, and I am the main moderator slash admin for the We Shouldn't Talk About This group, although V does pop his head in and out every now and then.
So like you're the social media like marketing person, and
Pretty much.
I'm the producer of our stuff, and then like the good pods, like howdy, I'm V, it's me, your
Not
boy.
howdy.
It's only three things I like: key, rootin', tootin', and shooting.
All right now.
Howdy.
Howdy indeed.
Just kidding, everyone. I don't like rooting or tooting or shooting.
Well, I don't know what family you came from because we are a family of shooters. Well, no, not your mom. Never mind. I guess you get that from her.
My mom doesn't really like anything. Well, she
It,
likes some stuff.
yeah, she likes some stuff. She used to be a great, well, not used to be. She probably still is if she had the time to do it, but she was a great artist. And to go along with our forgeries, let's say back when I was in elementary and part of middle school, and I had to do book reports, I would enlist your mother to draw me a picture on poster board and pass it off as my book report picture.
No way.
Absolutely. Oh, the two most notable ones that I can remember is that she drew like a huge stoplight because I did a Black History report on the black man who invented the stoplight.
Mhm.
And so she drew like a huge stoplight on a poster board for me. And then it was one, and this is the stone cold truth. I did not even read the whole book, but her picture was so good it got me an A.
That's crazy.
And it was like a black panther like jumping up out the grass and like swatting at a butterfly maybe. I don't even remember what the book was about. I remember I didn't read the whole book, but when my teacher saw that poster of this like huge like black cat jumping out the grass, she was like, "Oh, this is marvelous." So shout out to your mom's art skills. She probably could have been a forger if she put her mind to it.
Probably could have, yeah.
And your brother Ro, who has been our live studio audience and has also given us last week's absolutely well, not fun, but
No.
good topic,
Good topic.
is also very artsy.
Yes,
So,
he absolutely is.
that talent is running through the bloodline. Let's keep it going, you guys. Maybe we could start an art ring.
Maybe, just maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, we just announced it on the podcast, so it wouldn't be smart if we did.
Right.
Anyway, well, with that, I feel a lot better now. Back up.
Yeah,
We
me
are
too.
going to get us a shed. Oh, wait, there's already a shed in your backyard. We could use that for your mom and brother to start their art forgeries. And I think this is going to be a very lucrative business we're going into.
The Garden Shed Gang U.S. branch.
Part two.
Kind of crazy, unexpected that both our stories were about United Kingdom forgers.
I feel like because they're kind of more artsy just in general.
You think so?
I don't know. I think, we just, Americans just have this kind of stereotypical view of British people. Like because of their accent, like we just kind of think of them as more like classy and artsy and hoity toity, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, okay. I'm following.
So maybe that's where I'm getting that from. But we shall see. Hopefully, our art ring is just as lucrative, but not as badly ending.
Right, right. We gotta minimize the lies.
Yes. And also burn all records.
Yeah, don't put them in the archives.
Do not. So be on the lookout for our art forgeries coming to a gallery near you. And with that being said, I'm Key,
And I'm V.
and this has been We Shouldn't Talk About This.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.